Okay.
The water that's oops. The water that we use to serve the county, we get it from three sources, which is kind of unique. So we have Lake Berryessa, which is technically in Napa County, and that holds about 1.6 million acre feet. We also get water from the Delta as part of the State Water Project. About a third of our water comes from there. And we also have groundwater as a source. So this is just a little image that my predecessor had commissioned. And so an artist kind of helped create this just to give everyone a picture of where the water comes from the county. And depending where you are on this call, you might get water from the Delta, groundwater, or from somewhere else. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of background, you can see we have Lake Berryessa in the far left corner there. And then the water kind of goes, if you're in Vacaville, you can get water from Berryessa or groundwater. If you're in Dixon, Rio Vista, it's actually all groundwater. So this is a good little representation. And if anyone's on the call, you can reach out to me later. We have plenty of these little flyers available, or posters actually. So just a tiny bit about Berryessa. It was built in 1957. It's entirely rain-fed, unlike some other reservoirs in the state. We don't rely on snowmelt, and actually it's not high enough to receive any significant amount of snowmelt. It filled last year. That's the most common question that we get from the public. So it spilled last February, and I checked with the engineer who keeps track of it. It's about 3 feet away from spilling this year. So he's not sure if it's going to spill or not. So before we get into the irrigation talk, we wanted just to give everyone a big background. If you live in the county, in and around, you probably know that Solano County is really unique in that depending where you live, it's almost a totally different climate. Um,
Um,
so
so
sorry, it seems like there's a little bit of feedback. Just move that. So if you are in Vacaville, for instance, it is a more of a thermal belt, and we use the sunset zone to kind of explain it. So the sunset zone is, unlike the USDA zone, is a little bit more broad, so it uses different factors to help kind of determine what type of climate you're in. So this helps you plan how you're going to irrigate. So depending where you are, it could be warm like in Vacaville. You could have some coastal influence in certain places like Fairfield, Rio Vista, or Dixon, or you could have some marine effects. So if you're Vallejo or Benicia, you know it's a lot cooler and you get a lot more wind. So this makes planning for your garden a little bit unique because every house, every climate, every system, every city has its unique microclimate. So just a couple nice pictures. The one on the left actually is from my backyard, opens into this like inland woodland and chaparral area. But depending where you are home to a different ecological system. So you could be in Sassoon and live right near the Sassoon Bay, which is the largest contiguous wetland in the western US. So we're very lucky to have that. Or you could be in the Inland Valley, or you could be near vernal pools like Dixon. So every area in the county has its different climate, its different soil, and different things you need to factor in. Speaking of soil, and Maureen will get more into this, depending where you are in the county, again, your soil might be different. So where I am in parts of Vacaville, it's very clay-like soil, which means that the water absorbs more slowly. And if depending where you are, you might have more silty or more sandy soil. Ideally, you'd like to have a mix of all three. But almost, or irregardless, wherever you are in the county, most likely if your home is in an urban area, it's been heavily altered, which means that maybe your soil is compacted, it needs to be amended. So there's a lot of things to consider even before you start planting to help your plants be successful. All right, so just a little bit, and I'm no expert, I'm always learning. But we always recommend before you do anything, like right now you might be getting ready for your spring irrigation. Go ahead and take a walk outside in your garden. Get to know what is in your garden. You might be super familiar with all the plants, you might not. So we just recommend taking a look in your garden, seeing what's thriving. If you're not sure, there's so many plant ID apps that you can download to help you, or you have the master gardeners who have a hotline that they can also help you identify plants. And as we talked about unique climates, even your home has a microclimate. So depending if you have trees or shrubbery or direct sun, maybe evening breezes, there's all these different factors to consider when planning your garden, whether it's for irrigation or what you want to plant. So your plants will respond to the microclimate in the gardens, and your irrigation will depend on that as well. So, quick irrigation consideration. So, you might have heard this term hydrozone. Pretty much it means keeping your plants together and watering them accordingly. So, if you have succulents, you want to keep them together. If you have shrubs, you want to keep those together. So, you want to keep your plants near each other that require the same water needs. For instance,
Elise,
yes.
your screen just went black.
Oh, it did? Okay. Is it up now? Uh-oh.
No, nope, not yet.
No?
No.
That is odd.
It
Okay.
cut out a couple.
Oh, did it?
Mhm.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Let me try again. Okay. Can anyone see now?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go.
We're back to the mode where
The smaller version.
not, yeah, not the presentation
Oh,
mode.
okay. Now?
Yeah.
Oh,
Great.
perfect. All
Yeah.
right. So I think there we go. So can you see the hydro zone and irrigation considerations?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks to everyone for your patience. My apologies. So back to the hydro zones. Yeah, just pretty much keep like with like. So if something that requires a lot of water, keep those together. We always encourage low water use plants, but you also want to give your plants what they require. And if something requires less water, try to keep those together if possible. We always recommend also irrigating at the right time. So you might not want to irrigate when it rains, like this weekend. You can turn it off. Your plants are getting what they need from Mother Nature. Um, and also you can make seasonal considerations. So as we get into spring, you might want to change up your irrigation controller. We always recommend going for a weather-based or soil-based irrigation controller, or lets you take some of the manual part out of it. So we always recommend updating at minimum seasonally. But if you have any questions, again, we're here to support. And just if you're not sure what to plant, there's lots of plant guides out there. We have created one at the county in partnership with a couple local nurseries. Mid-City Nursery in Napa is wonderful, and Rancho Nursery in Vacaville. These are just ideas, and by no means is it exhaustive. Check out the Master Gardener website, Native Plant Society, UC Davis. There are plant lists out there to help you plant almost anything you would like. And just a little shout out. So, our agency does offer a lot of different programming. So, we do some public outreach, festivals. So, you might see me at Salmon Festival, things like that. We do a lot of water conservation incentive programs, and I'll get into that. So, there are some rebates. If you are on this call from another county, other cities do also offer rebates. But for Solano County, you do have to be a resident or you have to have property in Solano. We do also do educational programming, primarily with the resource conservation districts with K through 12 schools. So if you are so inspired after this presentation with Maureen, please take a look at our website. You might be eligible for a rebate. We offer rebates for taking out your grass, for a rain barrel. Take advantage of the rain this week. Rain sensors, moisture meters, smart controllers, and even high efficiency toilets. So if you have any questions, you can take a screen grab right there. That QR code will take you to our website, or you can just ask for Elise. I'm the only one at the office with that name. So thank you so much for having me. And if you guys have a moment, if you want to pop into the chat just before we get into it, we get these questions a lot, but if you know how long your irrigation runs, pop that into the chat per cycle. And when was the last time you checked for leaks in your irrigation system? So if you have done either of these things, just pop that into the chat. Excuse me. And with that, I would like to introduce Maureen. Maureen is with the Master Gardeners of Solano County, and she comes with a plethora of experience. And she is going to be the expert and discuss today's topic. Maureen, I'll let you take it
Hi.
away.
Okay.
Let
Hi, how are you?
me stop the share, sorry.
Oh, I'm just trying to get in there. So, where's your share on it?
Well, we have your picture now, Maureen,
Okay. Oh, you got my stuff. Okay. Um,
but you'd have to, if you have, yeah, for slides, you'd have to share your screen.
to that one. Okay. I get to the right slide. Okay. Hi. So I'm just going to start off where she's at. Share it there, and then here. Okay, that looks big, right? Does it look big on your end, guys? Can you
It
see it?
is.
Yes, yes, it looks good.
Okay. Okay, great.
Oh, it's the whole screen though. It has the stuff on the left.
Accelerated innovation
Oh,
is he won a gold
there we
in
go.
the team event. Today,
Alright.
looks to capture his first
There we
career
go.
gold
Okay.
Yeah,
How's that look?
perfect. Perfect.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Good
Hi,
work.
I'm Clark. I'm a UC Master Gardener from I started back in 2007, and I would have to say I really enjoy teaching people and helping out the public, letting people know what's really good for, the environment and how to save water. I love to do presentations on saving water. Just like Mike was saying earlier, it looks like we're getting some more water. It looks like we might be heading into a drought situation again because we really haven't had that much water this year. So it's very cyclical. So making sure that we go out and save water in the state of California and nationwide and everywhere is super important. And near and dear to my heart. So that's what we'll be focusing in mostly today on drip irrigation, not so much on like watering your lawns and stuff like that. But we will be having another workshop later on this year. Me and Elise will be doing it with the Solano County Water Agency, and that's when we'll be talking about more of like how to fix leaks and better ways to save water that way, looking for those irrigation leaks and things. So moving on. So, so here we are as Master Gardeners. One thing I would like to say with Master Gardeners, who we are and what we do. One of the main things that we will be sending out at the end of the presentations, we will be sending out a survey, and it's super important that you guys please fill out that survey. It takes like maybe 5 minutes to fill out that survey, but it's super important as far as us getting numbers to the state and them understanding what sort of presentations we're getting, what sort of information we are giving you, what sort of things you guys want from us and want to hear from us, and it actually helps fund us. So if you guys can fill out that survey at the end of this presentation, that'd be really great. But as far as Master Gardeners, we're here as a volunteers, and we serve 53 counties in the state of California, and Master Gardeners are nationwide. So even if you're moved to another state, you would still have a Master Gardener program probably in that county, more than likely. So our ideas and our informations come from here that we give to you are all scientifically based. And that's what we want to do, is make sure that you guys are on the up and up on all these scientific things, and then you're learning what's new and not learning things from the 70s. Like way back when I started, I would do things that I was taught. And then the more you learn, the more you go, oh, wait a minute, that's old school. I'm going to do my new school stuff. So moving on to the drip. Here we go. This is what I basically said about Master Gardeners. Help us grow. Fill out that survey, please. And so talking about saving water, why do we want to save water? We want to try and keep all that water out of the sewer systems, because what that's going to do is going to keep a lot more pollution out of the river streams and into our creeks. By using less fertilizer, that will also reduce a lot of pollution that way. It's going to prevent erosion and runoff if we're not doing a lot of overwatering of our lawns and things like that. And conserving water is super important, like I mentioned earlier. And then what we want to do is try and shrink that demand of the existing water supply because we are in California, we're cyclical. We have, like 3 or 4 years of really good rain, and then we start heading right back into a drought. And every single time we have a drought, it seems to be getting worse and worse. It's not just like we're having a little bit of drought, it gets extreme. So we get into like not major drought, we get to exceptional drought. Not extreme, exceptional. So it gets worse and worse each time we have one. So that's why we're really talking about trying to save that water. So moving on to irrigation. So if anybody is familiar with like where their things are at their house, this is typical what an irrigation setup looks like. You're going to have your PVC manifolds and valves coming along and through here. And then I wanted to point out a lot of times when I talk about valves or water pressure to people get confused and they think that we're talking about the actual valve that controls the house. And this is one that you would see that controls the pressure that goes into your house. And that's usually set about, somewhere around 68, 70 pounds per square inch. And so that's how much water is coming into these actual irrigation here. But they're two different valves that we're talking about when we're talking about things. So this whole set of valves that we have here, when they put it all together, it's called a manifold. And a manifold is kind of like your car. So your car is going to be you have like an 8-cylinder engine or a 4-cylinder engine. That's what your manifold, and then your valves are sort of broken out the sort of same idea as cylinders. On top of your valves and everything, you always usually have like little wires coming off of that. Those wires connect up to a controller. So that would be your irrigation controller. So this kind of gives you a quick lowdown on what irrigation manifold could look like. Okay. This would be an underground set of valves. So same thing, it's a manifold, but here we have it underground. Okay, and we still have our wires and everything in here. And then this would be an above ground valve with its manifold, just a single manifold here. So there's only one valve there. So these are all anti-siphon valves, and these are set up to automatically spill out the extra water when you are watering your lawn or other applications. Okay. These are your irrigation controllers, aka timers. Okay, these are pretty heavy duty, really good controllers that you could put out there. They're usually stuck on your back wall or they're put in your garage, but people have them in different places. And this would actually tells your irrigation like how to run, when to run, how often to run, and this is you can set up manually. And this is where it's super important this time of year is making sure that your rain sensor system is on and active. This one has a bypass. It has a bypass, and sometimes you'll see that on there. It's like, oh, it's got a bypass. But you need to have that rain sensor on so then it automatically turns off when we have these rains. These are smart controllers. Okay, so these are like hooked up and they actually hook up to your Wi-Fi, and then from there it hooks up to a weather station nearby. And that will pick up what weather is coming up, whether we're having a lot of a heat wave coming up or rain coming on. And with the smart controllers, what they'll do is they'll either turn off your irrigation because rain is coming, or you just had rain, and it will also do things like it will take it and it say, oh, wait a minute, we're in this time of year. You don't need to you don't need to water anything. Or a week from now, maybe it's getting a little warmer. Okay, now I'll start it up and I'll start, running the system. And then come summer, it'll say, oh, wait, we've got a big heat wave coming on, right? Or heat has moved up and now we've got a lot more warmer days. So it automatically adjusts everything from spring to summer to fall through winter, adjusts that automatically. And you can actually do things through your phone, which is really nice too. So you just pull up your phone and pull up the app and go, oh, okay, yeah. And you can also look on your app and say, oh, hey, it just watered yesterday or whatever time, whenever it rained, actually watered for you. These are a couple really good smart irrigation controllers, and the city or the county does give rebates on a lot of these. So always make sure you go out and check out your rebates as to what's out there and available. Okay. So when we're talking about irrigation, the only thing I did want to check to note that when you're doing like PVC and stuff like that, your PVC is going to be using for your usually for your lawn sprinklers. So those are already existing out there. Then they usually run as a Schedule 40. This is a Schedule 40 type of irrigation, and this is a gray style. It's a Schedule 80. And the reason why I'm pointing that out, let me go back a couple slides on here. And this is what we're talking about. This is where that PVC is running in. This is a gray style. This is Schedule 80. This one really technically, because it's above ground, this should also be a Schedule 80 or some sort of pipe that is gray and Scheduled 80. And you can always cover those with some like insulator covers so this PVC doesn't break down with the sun beating down on it all the time. Or you can sometimes, if they're not too tall, you can put little covers on them. But that's why I'm just putting that out and to say that, PVC, you really needs to, ideally, you do want to have like a Schedule 40 going underneath ground. So what is drip irrigation? So we're going to jump right into the drip irrigation and explain a little bit about it. We want to think about drip irrigation and watering our plants in a slow application. So when we're taking a drink of water, we don't like gullah, 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 gullah. And that's the same way that plants prefer to be watered. They want to be watered by a slow application, like get it into the soil, get it nice and deep into the soil itself. And then you also want to make sure that you're putting that water at the plant's roots. You don't want to be putting it elsewhere, away from the roots, because the roots won't grow towards the water. They need to be actually on the roots itself. With drip irrigation, there's going to be less runoff compared to most lawns, because a lot of lawns now have been people don't go out and check them as often as they should to make sure there's not runoff. As a matter of fact, I was over at taking a walk the other day, and I saw that my neighbor had they're not there a whole lot. So they had a ton of runoff, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I talked to another neighbor who goes, oh yeah, that happens all the time. I said, they didn't even adjust it for winter. He goes, no. I said, wow, there's a ton of runoff. So I'll try and reach out to him and see if I can let him know that the gardener needs to adjust that. But and it shouldn't even been running because it's been really wet. So, but anyway, you have less chance of runoff when you're doing drip irrigation. There isn't going to be a whole lot of wind blowing away that water because we're using drip emitters or not a lot of spray emitters. It also helps infiltrate into the soil, which is really good for our soil web. And then when we are doing drip irrigation, we're doing it in gallons per hour, not gallons per minute. When you're running regular lawn, sprinkler heads, those are going to be gallons per minute. And when we're dealing with drip, it's going to be gallons per hour. Okay. Yep. Here's my little save water guy. The benefits of it. So it's going to be, the water is actually going to go to the roots and the soil. That means there's going to be less evaporation. Like we were saying, there's not going to be a lot of winds, blowing it away. And trying to use less overhead sprayers. I think that's really beneficial for everybody because I do see it periodically out there where people are putting out their irrigation and they think, oh, I'll just put a bunch of those little spray heads out there. Well, what we really want to do is we want to reduce that runoff or the spray from being blown off from the wind, and also it spraying onto your plants and things like that. If it doesn't dry off, it can actually spread a lot of disease, and then you actually get a lot more weeds growing because you're just spraying the whole area rather than just doing the roots of the plants. Okay, so it also will save energy. So in the long run, we're putting down an irrigation system that's going to last a really long time. We're going to be saving gas and energy and a lot of other things just by doing that. So that's another reason why we want to actually do the benefits of drip irrigation. When we're doing our actual watering, we want to water the roots of the plants, of the new plants. And then when we want to make sure that when we're putting that irrigation in, we're going in and we're actually watering the roots of the plants when they're mature. And what I'll do is I'll show you how that is done. And what that does is that actually makes it so you're getting the water to the source where it needs to be. And then when we're doing it in certain situations, we're making sure that we're running it and we're running it in a correct way. So that then later on, if we're doing like veggie beds, we're actually going to get a lot more veggies because we're watering them correctly. Okay. So, and we'll go over that in a little bit. I have other slides where that shows that. So here, these are different components, most common components that we're going to have out there as far as drip irrigation. So here we're going to have, like this is standard what we call like the 1/2-inch drip or 5/8 drip. This is what our whole system looks like. We'll talk about how the layout happens. These are emitters and different things, but these are our major components that we use for point source drip irrigation. There's 2 different types of drip irrigation that is out there, styles that you can do. So this is typical components that you need. So this would be the valve that we were talking about earlier at the very beginning with our wires that would run to our irrigation controller. This would be a filter. So this filter, I really like these type of filters because they have a really heavy duty type of screen in there. And if you live in areas where you get a lot of gunky water, or you have a lot of other things going through there, then this is what you want to do. You want to use the filter, and then below that you would have your pressure regulator, pressure reducer. What that does is it takes that 70 pounds of square inch, the 70 psi that's going into the house itself, and it brings it down to 30 or 25 or 20, depending on what your reducer is set at. And it will say on the side of it what it's set at. This one actually says 30 psi. And then you'll actually have a connector, which will connect up to your 1/2-inch drip tubing below that. And then when you're doing your whole system, which is not shown here, but it will show it later on, is you talk about your drip tubing, your 1/2-inch drip tubing, which also connects up to your 1/4-inch or AKA spaghetti, and then you'll have barbs and emitters, and I'll show that as well. Okay, so these are your pressure regulators. You have these are the one on the left is a heavy duty commercial type. There's other styles out there that are commercial, and then the one on the right is actually the one that you do for it's another product that's put out there which has only a 130 mesh screen, which doesn't capture as much debris. And then they have a tendency, they've worked well. They work really well. They're just not commercial. They're more used for homeowners and things like that. And that one actually, a lot of times I see those in 20 PSI, but your PSI, if you're really doing really long runs for a big yard or going up hills like that, you do want to do a heavier duty pressure regulator so you can make sure you've got that pressure going up the hill. Okay. So those are different types of pressure regulators. This is the 1/2-inch strip tubing or 5/8 strip tubing. What you want to do is there's many different types out there. So when you're buying it, make sure you look at what the label says on it. What is your inside diameter and your outside diameter on that? And how far can you run it? Okay, it should say per the manufacturer how far you can run it. They come in different feet. I mean, they can come in like 20, 25 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet. Okay. And then this is another way of putting things down. If you want to do it, like say it's in your backyard and you don't have a valve or anything like that, you can actually run this from your hose bib or your spigot. Okay, so this way you could put on a battery controller. You would have your backflow device. The backflow device is super important to have. You would have your heavy duty filter on. You would have your pressure regulator. And then you would have your connector that connects up to your 1/2-inch strip. Okay. This is the backflow device, just like you saw on the previous screen here. This is your backflow device. This is a black one here. What that does is this is really important to have when you're running things off your hose bib. What it does is it keeps all this icky water from going back into your house. And this is also a vacuum breaker as well. A lot of your good heavy duty ones are, but this is super important to have on all your hose bibs, your spigots. Okay. Really super to simple to put on. And normally when I put one of those on, I always go in and I make sure that I put Teflon tape on the actual part of the hose bib where it connects. Because what that does, this is what Teflon tape looks like, if you guys can see that. They're coming across pretty good. This is Teflon tape, and what you do is you actually wrap it around the hose bib metal part of it, and that will keep things from seizing on there. So if you leave something on top of that hose bib for a long time, it automatically just like contracts and restricts and contracts and restricts, and that can cause things to like just adhere, especially if you've got a lot of heat. Things will just like the metal will just adhere to the metal, or the plastic will adhere to the metal, and this prevents that. It also will keep leaks out to a certain point. Okay, but just make sure you tighten on your contraptions on quickly. When you're putting things on like this, I hand tighten things on. You don't have to be using wrenches or anything. Just leave that in the toolbox. It's not necessary. Okay. So point source drip tubing. So this is what we're talking about with a 1/2 inch drip tubing. When this picture is actually showing the 1/2 inch drip tubing with some emitters here. The way it's shown is actually backwards, because when you're hooking up your emitters and things like that, you actually want to have it facing downwards towards the plants. You don't want to have it upwards like this, or you could have it off the side, which is a great way of doing it as well, to put it on the side of the tubing, and not on top, because on top, my dear old dog's gonna run over there and like knock it off with her foot, or I can knock it off, or someone's gonna stomp on it or something, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you've got a leak over there. Okay. So when we're talking about the drip tubing, like I said, you have, the 1/2 inch drip tubing. You will have an inside diameter and you'll have an outside diameter on that drip tubing. So that's going to correspond with what size fittings you're going to be using with that. Okay. And the other thing you want to do when you're doing any of your drip tubing is make sure it's covered up with some sort of mulch. Put a bark or something on there, and that's going to keep that sunlight off of it. I was in Arizona a few years back, and I have to tell you, man, the parts of irrigation that was not covered was blazing hot, and they're getting in the same amount of temperatures that we get out here in Vacaville. In Vacaville, it can get up to 106, it can get up to 108. That's why it's super important to have that drip irrigation covered up with some sort of mulch. Okay. And if you do that, then it's going to last a really long time, and it's not going to get worn out from the sun. So it can last up to 30 years, if you can see there. Okay. So this is the drip irrigation tubing sizes there's other ones that are different sizes, but these are the most common ones that we have out there. When you have the old style green, that's going to be something that's probably in your yard that was probably like probably 15 years or older, approximately, and usually has a green stripe going along it, but not always. It's always going to be a much smaller, thinner drip tubing. So that's why it's important to have the right type of fittings to go with it. This one I see out there pretty often for cheap. It's a 700, so it's a little bit thicker. But if you can get something that's a 710 on the outside diameter, then that's usually the best type that you can get. It's a little heavier duty. It's going to last longer for you. Okay, and then they all have specific type of fittings that they need to work with. So these are some different style of fittings. The one on the left is that is for the blue line, which you'll see out there. One size is always going to fit that blue line. The other side can fit under the smaller black. The green ones are the old style ones. I also see them in like dark blue. Those will fit with the green line, the old style green line. And then there's also compressions that you can fit actually onto PVC. That needs to be used with cement, PVC cement. I don't always commonly use these because they're made of a heavy duty plastic and they seem to crack. If people mess around with them wrong, they seem to crack pretty easily. These are other style of fittings that we have out there. The one on the left is a spin lock made of a heavy duty plastic. There's other styles out there, like the ones on the right, which is better. It's a more uh, easy to use type and a longer lasting type of plastic than the style on the left. The one on the right is another style, like spin lock on it. And then the one in the middle is a universal nut lock. And that's going to work on the old style. It's going to work with the green line. It's going to work with the 700. It's also going to work with the 710 with your outside diameters. Okay. And there's more fittings. Okay. So there's barb fittings as well. And there's compression fittings. And there's like, this is for like the one on the far right is like hooking up your drip to your pressure regulator. So to talk about spaghetti tubing, so this is your 1/4 inch spaghetti tubing. This is what you hook up to the 1/2 inch strip tubing. One thing I would say, don't run that in super long lines. This is only intended to go from your 1/2 inch strip tubing to the plant itself. It's not intended to be going 2 and 3 or 4 feet. It's strictly like maybe 18 inches. That's ideally what it's supposed to be used for. But there's different types. So this one is a polyurethane. It's going to be a much more flexible, soft type of spaghetti tubing. And this is going to be a vinyl tubing. This one's heavier duty. This is what I would definitely recommend with your hotter climates. It's also great because it's a kind of a stiffer type of tubing. You can actually use this. It's great for using in pots and things like that. These are barbs. That's how you get the tubing from the 1/4 inch tubing to your 1/2 inch tubing. There's different styles and there's different shapes. So you have like elbows, you have T shapes, you have crosses, and there's different like pokey types on there. But I like the ones, the pokier the better. The easier they are to put together. And this is how you actually connect it up. So this is going to connect up your 1/4 inch tubing to your 1/2 inch tubing. As you can see on there, there's actually a barb hooked up to it. And then your spaghetti and then your emitters coming off over to it. It's really super important to hook it up this way and not other ways that I see out there. The other ways will actually, the other way that I see people do it is they put the emitter straight up against the 1/2 inch tubing and then they just have the spaghetti coming out. What happens is there's a lot of clogs can happen on that. And that's also open for rats and squirrels and things just kind of gnaw on it. They're like, no, no, no. And they're like, hey, great, you got a little spigot just to drink water off of. And also it can get earwigs and things like that, different bugs and things in there. So you don't want that. It's much better to hook it up this way here. Okay. So these are different styles of emitters that we have out there. There's flag emitters on the bottom right corner. You can see there. That's a style that I prefer because you can actually clean them out. There's a little way of turning it, the very top. You pop it off and then you can actually clean the inside of those out. The other styles, you're not able to clean them out. If it fails, you won't know until your plant starts looking like, ugh. And your plant goes, what? And you go, oh, wait a minute, why is my plant looking kind of gnarly? And then it's sometimes it can be too late, but if you're going out and you're checking your things pretty often, you'll be able to notice that those emitters are starting to fail. Sometimes they actually make like a squeaking noise too. If they're like ee, when you turn it on, that can be an indicator too that the emitter's kind of clogged up and that it needs to be replaced. The woodpecker style of emitters are the ones that I usually you'll see out in vineyards and things like that. Okay. Spray emitters, there's different type of actual emitters are here. These are great for using in pots like that, things like that. I don't really recommend doing these all over the yard because as you see on the one on the left, that one could actually be set up to like maybe put out 10 gallons per hour, and then that's not really saving water. The whole point of having things is having your emitters. You have like black. This will usually be 1 gallon. The other ones, who knows what those are because they're produced in different countries. So sometimes that blue one could be a 1/2 gallon. Sometimes it could be 1 gallon. Sometimes it could be 4 or 2 gallons. So when you do have it, they don't always say how many liters is on there, but liters and gallons are a little different. But yeah, be careful when you put them out there. Make sure you know which ones they are. If they're all half gallons, 1 gallons, or 2 gallons. And this is why it's can get kind of difficult to when you're putting a whole bunch of spray emitters out there because you're not saving money because we're putting 10 gallons out every hour rather than 1 gallon.
Maureen, could I ask a question about the previous slide?
Sure. Go ahead.
Does it matter which direction it goes, it faces the plant? Do you want the red or the green color facing the plant or in the spaghetti line?
Usually what I do is I put the one part here towards the bottom. I say like we're saying this one here, that would be towards the into the spaghetti line.
Okay, what
Same thing
about the,
here on
yeah,
the left here.
yeah,
This one here is where you actually want to be dripping. The pokey end is normally the end that you're putting into the half-inch or
spaghetti.
into the spaghetti
Okay.
line.
So the pointed end goes into the spaghetti line and it in the bottom one the green goes in, but in the top one the black goes in. So color doesn't matter. But
Uh,
look at the red. They're both pointy to me.
Yeah, some of them are set up that way because like this one on the far left is an inline emitter. So that actually works as a kind of like you put spaghetti and then you do an inline, then you do a spaghetti and then you do an inline. So what that actually doing is setting up like a different style of drip. So you've got drip going all the way down, coming out the whole both sides of it. So this one on the lower half, it's only going to be coming out one end. The one on the top, it's going to be coming out both ends. So
That
um,
doesn't make any sense to me. But
I know
when I go to Green Acres, I'm looking for the pressure ones for my
you can do
backyard
pressure
garden
compensating ones. Those would be great.
or the flag
The
emitters.
flag ones, yeah,
Okay.
those are the best
Okay.
way to do it. But yeah, ask for pressure compensating. I see more and more people doing inline emitters and making a mistake by doing that. Because
Thank you.
inline's going to come out both ends. It's going to be coming out like a one. It's set up so you can set it up for spaghetti or for veggie beds. That's originally how it was set up to be done. Okay, and I can explain that more in the next slides out here. Okay. So at the end of your drip irrigation, this is where you actually want to put so it stops. Okay. These are something you put at the end. You can put a figure eight. You can put a cap style at the bottom, or you can have a flush out, which is in the middle here. Okay. And these are barbs or goof plugs, not barbs. These are goof plugs or dummy plugs, we call them. This is for mistakes or that leaks that you have in that half-inch strip. You can also use the smaller side to fill in. If you've got a spaghetti irrigation, you just like boom, put that at the very end of it. That acts as like an end cap. There's also shut-off valves that you can use inside the half-inch strip or in the spaghetti, and that's great for turning on and off beds. You say, "Oh, that bed's like I'm not working on that bed right now," or for like for veggie beds, it's great because you can say, "Oh, I've got this 4-inch 4x4 bed I'm using right now, but this half of the 4x4 bed I'm not using during the winter, so I can just turn that side off with one of these guys." Okay. And these are retro fits that you can use for sprinklers. The one on the left is fairly common. This is with using barb style connectors. This is flexible tubing. So the flexible tubing, I do want to point out because I did see people using this throughout their yard and thinking it was drip tubing and it was not. This is supposed to be used strictly for when you're putting like sprinkler heads on for a lawn or when you're using like going underneath actual walls and stuff like that because the drip can get compensated if a heavy wall and stuff is sitting on it. So this is always a good thing to use, like from going under the wall and then putting regular drip tubing on either side of it of the wall. These are octopus with spaghetti tubing. I see people using these. I see a lot of people recommending these. I prefer not to use them only because squirrels love these and they just go num 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 and they eat them all up and the next thing you know you've got a nightmare. And if you're not using one, sometimes you lose the caps on them. But some people prefer it. So if you want to do it that way, that's great. That's just another way of converting from your sprinkler to a spaghetti tubing and then using that spaghetti tubing off to the other plants. So this is your point source irrigation. This is more of it like in a bigger size here. This shows you that your 1/2 inch tubing, if you look on the one on the right, your 1/2 inch tubing is set up. So when you originally lay it down, it's going to be at the width of where your plant is going to mature to. So if your plant's going to be 4 feet by 4 feet, you want that irrigation at the 4 feet limit where the roots are going to be at. Okay. On the one on the left with where it says 1/4 inch spaghetti, that is when you have your young plants. You used to have that 1/2 inch tubing way on the outside of it, and you're using that spaghetti tubing with the irrigation, with the emitters, and that's going to the source of the young plant where the roots are. Once it grows up, you're going to make sure that the source is actually, the spaghetti is removed, and then you're putting in emitters actually on the 1/2 inch strip itself. Okay. And here's another style. This is inline drip. Okay, as you can see on the right-hand side, you can see it kind of dripping out there. There's a couple different styles and types. There's Hunter and there's Netafim, and there's a couple other companies that put it out there. But this has automatically emitters put in there. Okay, so it will resist the clogging and the earwigs getting in there. This is a layout, a typical layout of one. Sorry guys, I'm going a little fast because we're starting to run out of time, and I do want to save time for questions and things like that. So this is how you would run it. They're showing it kind of running upside down because it looks like the emitters, you always want those emitters pointing down towards the soil itself. Okay. And then it can actually have, it can actually be really cost effective. What this one does is the inline drip tubing comes in different I guess we hacked out that slide. So they come in different lengths. So they come in different lengths, and in each length you'll have emitters in different areas. So they'll come in like 12-inch, they'll come in 24-inch, and they'll come in uh, I think it's 18 inches apart. So when you have the emitters are automatically set so many inches apart, and then they also come in a different style. So you pick out how far apart do you want those emitters to be, and then you also pick out what type, how much water you actually, the flow rate that you want. The flow rate can come in 0.3, 0.6, 0.9. Those are the most common ones that you can do them in, which is comparable, like how many gallons on the emitters. So your emitters come in like, 1/2 gallon, 1 gallon. This one comes in a little bit different style of that. So it'd be 0.3, 0.6, 0.9. Okay. It can be cost effective in the long run, but upfront you may have to put down a bunch of, you may put down some money to put it down and get it converted. Generally, you need to make sure that you're not, you don't have to worry about doing the conventional spray, which is really, really nice. But you do have to go out there and inspect, at least check out your system several times a year. Okay, make sure things are not dirty and things like that. So when you go through it, we did send out a checklist for everybody to look at. That was the checklist that I put together. And what I do is I usually go through it at Valentine's and Christmas or Thanksgiving. I sometimes will go out there in the middle of summer and kind of check things out too to make sure everything's doing really well. The reason why I do it at Valentine's is usually before we get our heat wave, and that's to check to make sure that we don't have little, animals have gone out there and eat it, like squirrels and stuff like that. Like I did find it over at a homeowner's house recently in the back where it wasn't covered with mulch. The squirrels, or it looked actually like a rat. A rat had gotten to it, and they'd like actually eaten into 1/2 inch tubing. So that's the reason why you go through and you like double check it. You turn it on and go, oh, we got a sprayer over there. Let's go take care of that and fix that. And then also doing it in the summer, make sure you don't have anything that's broken or anything like that. And then making sure you put all your mulch on top of the irrigation, and then keeping it from the actual stems and the trunks of the trees. You want to keep that at least, 4 to 6 inches from regular plants and at least 10 inches from your trees. And then not putting down too much. I mean, you can come down, you can put down some organic compost if you don't have bark. You can do 2 to 3 inches of compost, or you could do like 1 inch of compost and then 2 inches of actual bark as a mulch. Yeah, so when you go out and cleaning, doing your maintenance checklist, make sure you clean out those filters. They're in the and because otherwise they can get really gunky and nasty. Here are some really good irrigation suppliers that you can check into for getting some really good heavy duty, well made irrigation parts and pieces. And then there's some handy websites. You can go to Our Water, Our World. They do really great stuff for safe pesticides, for how to save water. Lots and lots of information out there. There's also the Solano County Water Agency for the rebates, and then you can also do for California Irrigation. Okay. That's it. Oh, I think that's it. Yep, that's
Question,
it.
questions, anyone? Please, you can unmute and ask, or you can put them into the chat.
We still have a few minutes to do that. We have
Mhm.
5 minutes. Yeah. So you said, was that you that asked about it, Joan, that was
Yeah,
asking that?
I don't know one side of an emitter from the other. Do I want the colored side in? Do I want the black side in? If I turn it around, is it a dead end? Does it stop it from dripping? Do I want the green one? Do I want the red one? There's a lot to choose from.
Right, right. So typically what we're doing when we're doing emitters, there's going to be a kind of a pointier side. And that pointier side was made so that we can just like push it into that 1/2 inch strip. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's pointy. So because it's got that it's got a piercing side, right? So the
Okay.
piercing side is what you want to go in that 1/2 inch strip or into the spaghetti.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, it's
Um,
spaghetti. It's spaghetti. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you're laying out an area, like a zone, what you usually want to do is you usually want to pick all the same type for that zone. You want to take like a black colored, and that is like 1 gallon, and that 1 gallon is going to be on that one area. And then from there, you could say, well, I've got 1 gallon, I've got at least two on each plant, right? Because you want at least two on each plant on either side. And then if you have like trees and stuff like that, you're going to treat it differently. Even if they're shrubs, like with shrubs, you're going to want more than two. You usually do 3 emitters on those big shrubs. On trees, you're going to want at least 4 or 5. And it's going to be
Wow.
further out.
Okay.
It's going further out. So the number one thing I see with like trees and stuff like that is I see people say, "Oh, right, yeah, let's put that emitter on. I've got my ring of a 1/2 inch strip around my tree, but it's like really super close to the trunk, and it's not even close to the roots.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure everything's at the roots itself."
Okay, we have a comment. The round end of the emitter is where the water will drip. The pointed end will go into the 1/2 inch tube. Yes. Okay, thank you. Um,
So,
my plants get one emitter. Nobody has more than one emitter. Even my citrus has one.
oh yeah, yeah, your citrus is going to want at least 4, like going all the way around right
Okay,
at
but how
the
at
roots.
what age do you stop? Like I've been in the house the house is built in 1970. The citrus were put in 1970. Do I even need to water them?
Oh,
Well, if you have a lawn nearby, probably not. If you have a lawn, then that's probably most of its roots are probably over there in that lawn area, and there's probably sucking up all the water from the lawn. So I would say you probably don't need it.
Okay,
And
thank you.
a lot of people overwater those lemon trees anyway.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah,
They get a hose overnight once a month in the summer.
okay, plenty. That's more than enough. Yeah, but think about, and also when people remove their lawn, you have to think about what's dependent on that lawn. Is there is there a giant tree out there who's been sucking up the lawn water for 30 years? And now all of a sudden you've converted it to drip? That tree will go through a shock
Mm-hmm.
And then or you need to go out there, make sure you're getting enough water at its root source.
Okay. Thank you. That was wonderful. Do we have
You're welcome. Thank you.
any questions, anyone? Hop on in.
Maureen, could you explain the idea of hydrozoning? I know Elise mentioned that, and I know it's a huge topic. You do an hour on it, but real
Yeah.
quick.
Real quick, so your hydro zones are what I say you really want to go out and check out your garden and see where you have microclimates. For one, microclimates are going to make a difference as far as how much you're going to water and how much is if it's going to be a hot zone or a windy zone. And so that's what you're doing is you're doing everything in different zones. So you could do a zone for do one zone just for vegetables, do one area that's just for your lawn, do an area that's just for your California natives, and then do other areas that have oh, I've got all my kind of tropical stuff over here. So I want my tropical, or I've got just a lot of just regular sort of plants. I've got a really shady area and I've got regular watering. So you want to make sure you have all your hydro zones all set up and set up onto different valves if you can do it that way. That's the best way to do it. Each valve is dedicated to that zone, including if you have pots on your patio, that should be on a completely different valve. So did that answer it for you?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Okay.
I think that's important concept.
Yeah.
And Elise, I had a question. Do you know whether or not Yolo County has or what sort of similar initiatives they have to Solano County? Um,
Yeah, vaguely. So I know like Davis, every city's a little different. I believe Woodland, I could be mistaken, but I believe Woodland has rebates. Yolo
And then,
County, for like water conservation, City of Davis, I do not believe it does, but it does have a lot of programs. Like there's Tree Davis. So there's a lot of programs, but I do not believe there's like landscape conversion rebates.
yeah, not
West
anymore. Right.
Not anymore, not as far as I know, but there is, and I can connect people. There's a water conservation specialist that works for the city,
Yeah.
that works in partnership with other organizations. Her name is Dawn. I can connect people. City of West Sac, I believe, is also Yolo County.
Mhm.
I'm not 100% certain. I can double check because I know City of Sacramento does have rebates, but I can't recall if West Sac technically
Yeah.
does. But
Well, I
if
guess the message is people can certainly call. There may be rebates, and if not
yes.
rebates, certainly some assistance in water saving kinds of approaches. Each city may be different, but
Each city is different. You're also welcome to call Solano County and we'll share any resources you have. But if you have a question about the particular person, we can connect you with the representative of that city. Um, check your utility bill. So if you are in Yolo County, your water bill, I believe most everyone in Yolo County, I could be mistaken, is it gets their water from the particular city. Typically, if you check your water bill, it'll pull you to the whatever website they have and connect you to the resources and the person who is in charge of the programs or outreach. So they usually are really responsive. Um, but again, if you're having a hard time, contact us. We will be happy to loop in the correct person, the correct city. Napa, if Napa's on this call, they also have lots of programs. They usually go to farmers market every weekend. So yeah.
yeah, great. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I mean, certainly an important topic, and it's, as Maureen said, it's going to be more important as the months and the years go on. So that's great. All right. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. Next session, which will be on the 26th, Treva Valentine, who is a YOLO Master Gardener, will talk about pets in your garden, keeping your garden safe from your pets and keeping your pets safe from your garden. And I think Treva will probably also talk about some of the wild critters that may be in our garden. So even if you don't have pets, your neighbors probably do. And it's certainly an important topic. So we'll hope to see you in a couple of weeks.
Hi,
All
everybody.
right. Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Joan.
Thank you for
Okay.
having us.
Thank you.